From the Clark Ford Studio in Oxford, Mississippi, MBW Digital proudly presents the Oxford Exxon Podcast.
I'd say thanks for tuning in, but why am I going to give you a round of applause for something that you're supposed to do, to be frank?
And now, here are your hosts, Chase Parham.
And broadcast school has really paid off.
And Neal McCready.
I deserve to be on TV.
Welcome to this Monday edition of the Oxford Exxon Podcast. Chase Parham to Neal McCready, Clark Ford Studio this morning. Jeffrey Wright coming on with us today and bringing oven mitts with him as he usually is on Thursday. Today is on Monday, obviously Thursday, Thanksgiving. I'm not exactly sure of our schedule. I know no podcast tomorrow, no podcast on Thursday. What about Wednesday? What are we doing? Are we doing one Wednesday or no? We haven't even talked about it.
We haven't even talked about. We're not doing one tomorrow.
We're not doing one tomorrow.
Okay. I'm fine Wednesday. Whatever.
Okay, so Wednesday. Today and Wednesday will be your two podcasts for the week, heading into to Thursday night and the Egg Bowl. Obviously, Ole Miss losing to Vanderbilt in overtime on Saturday night. We'll talk about that, and then with Jeffrey, we spin it forward. We'll explain why and everything else here in a few minutes on this show. It's brought to you every single day by the Oxford Exxon, Highway 6 West in Oxford. It is almost Thanksgiving. Let them smoke your turkey for you. Let them take that off your plate as you prepare for Thanksgiving. Wednesday's the cutoff. You can't do it after Wednesday, obviously. It takes about 6 hours. You take it to the Oxford Exxon here in Oxford, and they will take care of it. Obviously thawed, and turkey needs to be thawed. You purchase it, you take it to them. 6 hours there with those guys. So let them take care of that. And again, coming to you from the Clark Ford Studio.
Yeah, it'd be kind of tough to smoke. I was
just clarifying for the off chance.
No, I've learned sometimes in life you don't need to leave assumed details out of conversations.
Maybe there's someone I helped by doing that. I'm just saying.
My 10 weekend thoughts are up on the site. The site, of course, is rebelgrove.com. It's part of the rivals.com network. Make a great Christmas gift. Rebelgrove.com would. And you can do that by going to rebelgrove.com. The 10 thoughts are brought to you by Harry Alexander. Harry is an Oxford-based RE/MAX Legacy Realty agent. He's been in Oxford more than 4 decades. No one knows the residential and condo market in Oxford better than he does. Go to his site, harryalexander.com. Click on the Properties and Neighborhoods tab. Filter through by what you're looking for, what you think you're interested in. The results that you get are updated daily. And then he'll take care of the rest. Send him an email, ha@harryalexander.com. The podcast also brought to you in part. I just realized I was supposed to talk about Clark Ford here. It doesn't.
Yeah, what are you doing?
I don't know. My mind's on about 10 things right now. I'll tell you this. The podcast is also brought to you by Clark Ford. Big part of the podcast. Clark Ford in Amory, Mississippi, 662-257-1900. You threw me off with the podcast conversation. It's my fault, not yours. Mine. I'm not blaming you. I'm just explaining to you where my feeble little head went.
All right.
I'm not no blame being distributed. Total blame belongs to me. Clark Ford, 662-257-1900. You call Clark Ford. You tell Corey what new Ford you're looking for, Corey Clark, and he sends you a quote within 15 minutes in business hours. It's simple. It's right to the bottom line. There's no haggling. There's no hassle. You get right to the bottom line, and after that, it's up to you. You get your quote, and you can shop it around. You can call any car dealers you want to, or you can let Corey make your Black Friday super simple. Right to the bottom line, no hassle, no haggle. Let him take the everyday hassle out of the car buying experience. And you get a great Ford product, great service after the sale. Corey and his people there do a fantastic job. I've dealt with them on a personal level as well. I'm driving a Clark Ford. And so you'll be thrilled with the purchase that you make. 662-257-1900.
Also, locations, other locations for that is Hazelhurst, Byram, Jackson, Clinton, and Walnut as well for the smoked turkeys. So you can take them to any of those Blue Sky locations as well. Yeah, Walnut, you say.
Gotcha.
Isn't that Jeffrey Stomping Grounds' dad?
That is.
Walnut?
Is.
Yeah.
Big Jeff is from Walnut.
Big Jeff's from Walnut. That's what I thought.
You know what's funny? I have no idea why. I've only met Big Jeff a couple of times. But when I think about Thanksgiving now, isn't this crazy? This shows you like the way thought works. One of the first people I think of when you say Thanksgiving
is Big Jeff. He feeds the dogs. He carves the turkey. He does the whole.
I picture Big Jeff Frankly, I pictured the back of Big Jeff carving a turkey over what appears to be a kitchen sink sort of area.
Yeah.
And the two dogs, one at his right, one at his left.
Carly and Rebel.
Patiently yet anxiously awaiting scraps. And it appears that Big Jeff is an absolute sucker as it pertains to Labrador Retrievers on Thanksgiving Day. And for whatever reason, that mental picture kind of makes me feel good. I don't know why. It just does.
It's a bit of a modern Norman Rockwell to that, isn't there?
It is kind of Rockwellian. It's funny that it is. It's funny. That's what I picture. And I like Big Jeff the times that I've communicated with him, but I've never had Thanksgiving dinner at the Wright house or anything. And yet when I think of Thanksgiving, I think of the Wrights.
Yeah.
That's bizarre, the way the mind works.
Huge thanks to the Music City Rebel Club and those guys for helping us out over the weekend in Nashville. Had really good attendance for our watch party on Friday night. Ole Miss and Butler. So met some of you. Gave away some gift bags. Gave away some gift bags even to some people who had no idea who we were. Apparently, I think as the night went on as well. So good to see everybody that was out. Had a few 4%ers say they liked that it was 4%, not 8 or 20 that we said 4. Had one that basically claimed to be the queen of the 4%ers. So I had that conversation on Friday night too. So
it's always good to meet royalty.
Yeah, it was. It was good all the way around. So appreciate everybody, and again, huge thanks to those in Nashville that helped with that event. Michael and those guys, big help to us for that one. We'll
my ears have not completely recovered from two things. Friday night was loud.
Was it really?
It was fine.
Okay.
I'm not having a problem with loud. And then on Saturday, we went down to the field, and I couldn't see from where you all were standing. And so I went and stood in the end zone.
Okay.
The problem with the end zone, while I had a fantastic
the speakers were right there.
I had a fantastic view of the game, but the speakers were they don't have a sound system.
No, it's just like really, really large and a lot of those like stage speakers set up on top of one another.
Exactly. Bizarre how that still passes for an SEC stadium. But it was so loud, and I was right there. It's my fault. No one made me stay.
No.
But I could see. I couldn't, where y'all were standing, I couldn't see, and their Jumbotron's not very good. And so I was trying to watch the contest, and I could see it from there very well. I couldn't see it from Ole Miss was driving right at me, attempting to tie or go ahead late in the game.
Correct.
And so I stayed there so I could watch, and I think my hearing took a blow. Okay,
fair enough. That's why you didn't hear, and you started reading ads and all sorts of stuff, so it's fine.
I got a lot going on right now. Yeah, there's a lot going on. Your phone's blowing up. My phone's blowing up on 2 or 3 things. I'm selling what's left of my big green egg.
You're like scrapping it off?
Yeah, because it's not reparable. That's one. 2, I was communicating with the father of Campbell's freshman roommate briefly.
Okay. Yeah.
That was going on. And then 3, my phone's blowing up with Ole Miss stuff. And so I had a lot going on. It's not your fault. It's my fault. I accepted complete and total blame.
I'm actually in a little better shape. My mind was fried at like 2 a.m. Sunday morning. We were walking out of that press box. Like I had to kind of recover a little bit. I was all off in my own little world.
What
well, we're leaving
which
and
garage, what floor?
Say it was. I told Neil it was like, and it was multiple of these over the course of the weekend, but it was a lot like that episode of Seinfeld where they can't find their car for the full 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And because we walked in the wrong garage, it was my fault. It's a little bit of Brian's fault. It was none of Neil's fault.
Yeah.
He was not in presence when we showed up the first place.
I was not.
So
I took a hotel shuttle.
If you're in Nashville, and again, this is my fault, but I'm blaming it on someone else because why not? Don't paint all the inside of all the garages the exact same. When I walk in and I see the red and white stripes, I think, well, I'm in the right garage.
Yeah.
Paint the other one green or blue or yellow or something as an indicator when they're essentially right next to one another. And instead, we get in, we go to the second floor.
Or you could make a stronger mental note about which garage you parked in.
Or floor, for that matter.
Yeah, I mean.
We go to the second floor, we go to the third floor, and then kind of have the conversation of, this doesn't even really look like the right garage. So then you exit and you go back to the other one, and then you try to figure out the floor again.
And I said, Brian, do you have one of those fob locator things? Just hit the button for a minute. We did. And you could kind of briefly hear it. We walked over to it.
Yeah.
Turns out you were on the 4th floor.
3rd floor.
You were 3/4.
Well,
you were between the 3rd and the 4th.
we were not. We were next to the ramp that would have gone up to the 4th floor.
All's well that ends well. We were never in danger or anything. Thank God we were in Nashville and not other places.
There were a few parking garages that had we been in that situation, I would have been a little more nervous at that moment, but that was not one of them.
I've never felt particularly nervous on the Vanderbilt campus. Just keeping it real.
War zone urban areas, that does not qualify.
For whatever reason, when I'm on the West End in Nashville, I usually feel pretty safe.
Yeah. We got into an Uber on Friday night. It was like a $120,000 car, and then she knew people that everyone knew. It was the strangest deal, by the way.
We having a conversation about Albany, Georgia.
Yeah.
And by the end of it, it was like, so how's your mama and them?
Yeah.
They good? Happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy your sweet potatoes.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm all over the place. Sorry, people. This is what you get on the show. By now, you should know that. So, all right.
What time did you wake up on Sunday? You went to bed probably around 2:30 or 3.
About 2:30. I went to bed fast.
I sent you a text and you did not respond to it.
Okay, so there you go.
Yeah.
Let me think. We got back, killed a little time, frankly, even after that. No, that was Friday night. Saturday night was pretty straight.
Yeah, Friday night we went and sat in the bar.
No. Saturday night went to bed. The bar was not open when we got back Saturday night.
No, it was 2 a.m.
I woke up around 5:15 and made myself stay in bed till about 6:20. So it was okay. I was fine.
I woke up at 7:30, looked at the clock, and had that internal debate of, do I go back to sleep? And I was afraid that if I went back to sleep, I'd sleep till 10:30. And so I got up. I worked on 10 Thoughts a little bit, and I got in the car and drove.
We had a little issue coming home because I was starving, forgot to kind of eat in Nashville. It was like, okay, we'll just take an exit. There are no food spots when you leave Nashville really on 40.
Not many.
So then we got off in Dixon, and the sign had a few different places. Most of those did not serve breakfast. And then there was a Dunkin' Donuts that had a big line through the drive-thru. It was like, I would go in, order something quick, just a little sandwich or something. And we wait in line 10 minutes for them to tell us the ovens are not working.
Oh. So what'd you get?
And there was one woman that had already ordered her sandwich and had been waiting 10 minutes to then be told they could not do the oven. Yeah. So got back in the car, drove actually in the wrong direction for 4 miles because actually went the wrong way, and then stopped and then came back. So it was a bit of a circuitous route home yesterday, but it's all good.
Yeah,
it's all fine. All right, I know what people want to talk about. It's not this.
There.
So
let's get there. Here we go.
All right,
here we go.
The replays, a lot of them. Ole Miss had 3 touchdowns overturned. 2 of them have been highly debated topics of conversation all over the internet, message boards, social media. Yeah,
one was the right call.
And then there's 2 of those. Also, Ross comes out yesterday and essentially said that he's talked to Sankey twice, that he and Matt had spoken. However, he gave no elaboration on what the actual result of said ruling was.
It's not the statement Ole Miss people want to hear. And we talk about this with Jeffrey a little bit, and I'm not blaming Ross.
I think if I'm Ross, I don't even give that statement, though, because it looks wishy-washy at that point.
It looks weak.
Yeah.
And I know for a fact he's not weak on this. He's angry about it.
Yeah.
I've been told from a number of people.
We saw him on Saturday night.
I saw him Saturday night, talked to him. I know he was angry.
Yes.
But you can't come out and attack the league and attack the commissioner and have credibility.
Stop you real quick. At the end of the day, why can't you one time? What's it really doing to you? They're not fining you.
Well, because I suspect the conversation that the 2 men had Saturday night was more frank and more detailed, and included some anger and included some emotion. And
then show that emotion to your fan base.
Well, that's their problem, and we're going to get into that as this week goes on. That's their problem. I mean, I don't think it's good business to attack the league. I don't think it's good business to attack.
I'm not saying claim conspiracies. That's not my point. But I do think you can show public.
Well, he said they disagree with the interpretation of the call.
Well, I know that.
I don't think Ross believes there's a conspiracy against Ole Miss.
And I didn't say conspiracy.
Right,
That's not my point.
I know. I'm not attacking you, Chase Parham. I'm just trying to.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, look, it would engender a lot of appreciation from a fan base if he just came out fire and brimstone. I just don't know that it's a great look, big picture. And to me, that's my theme.
But I guess that's my point. To who? What does it matter at the end of the day? At the end of the day, your constituents are your people. It's not the league. The league's not kicking you out because you get pissed off one night. And I'm not criticizing Ross. I'm just playing a podcast game.
And I'm playing a podcast game, too. And the answer is, honestly,
yeah,
he's got a career to think about.
Another school's not going to hire you because you stood up for your school?
Not if you kind of make an ass of yourself. And
I didn't say Gundy make a YouTube moment.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think on my feet here.
Yeah, no, I know. We didn't prepare for this.
No, and I'm kind of glad we didn't. I'm kind of glad we didn't prepare for this podcast because we're going to talk about stuff because Jeffrey brought stuff up that it's going to force us to talk about. I don't know, honestly, to answer your question.
Mm-hmm.
I'm willing to admit that you might be right. That maybe coming out and saying that, hey, we had a conversation. I'm not satisfied with the conclusion. I respect Mr. Sankey and I respect the league, but quite frankly, we think the whole thing was bullshit. Now, here's the problem with we think the whole thing is bullshit, and this gets us into the replays and into some things you and I have talked about.
Yeah.
When you say we think the whole thing is bullshit, okay, let's take the 2 plays in question.
Okay.
Because it's 2 plays.
Yeah.
Did DeMarcus Lodge step out of bounds? I'll be honest. I was walking. I got up after DeMarcus Lodge, what we thought was a score, and I was going to go get a cup of coffee. I walked back and to my right, and Charlie Hussey was there with his little girl.
Yeah.
I think her name is Olivia.
Okay.
Very impressive little girl, by the way. And they had a TV right in front of them. And as I'm walking, and I spoke to Charlie, and I shook his daughter's hand, I introduced myself. She introduced herself to me, and I was telling her it was a pleasure to meet her. And on the screen, she and I looked at it at the same time, and me and this little girl, who I'm going to guess is about 9, 10 maybe, said, oh, he's out of bounds.
And it comes back to really the moral of the whole day. Is he on the ball of his foot? Did the heel touch out of bounds? When you look at it, you go, I think he might have been out of bounds. I couldn't see the heel touch. Right. The play's called on the field a touchdown, which is where our whole problem is here, is the SEC and, frankly, the NFL for a while kind of had this issue, and they've sort of really dialed it back and they've been very proactive on repairing a lot of this, is the SEC, and it's not the way it's supposed to work. It's not the way the rule is interpreted. It's completely against how the rule is interpreted. They use it as a do-over. They look at it and then make a call based off the replay versus going, hey, is this indisputable and are we fixing an egregious mistake? What replay was set up for, and what it's still set up for in the rule book, is to fix egregious mistakes where you make a defining snafu problem, and now we've got to repair that. Not to start nitpicking and get a do-over on the call. And that's where all this comes back to, is through the interpretation of that. I've watched the replay finally last night. I did not until last night when I went back and turned the game on. I couldn't see his heel down. If I'm making that call just running through in full speed, you go, hey, yeah, probably stepped it. That's what's funny to me. Full speed probably looked more like he was out of bounds than the replay to me.
Right. The replay that I saw was a full speed replay.
It looks more like he's out of bounds.
Right.
But when you go frame, that heel maybe he's in the air, and you know how they cut, and then he goes on through. So frankly, you want to start arguing the 2 replays? I have more of a problem with that one than the other one.
Okay. The other one, the one that everyone's talking about. When I say everyone, I mean everyone.
Across the country, frankly, at this point.
Yeah, the A.J. Brown play in overtime.
Yeah.
On that play, and I said this down on the field immediately when it happened. I said, I know in the NFL what that call is because the NFL has fixed it.
It used to not be a catch in the NFL, and it's absolutely a catch now in the NFL.
A year ago, that is an incomplete pass in the NFL.
Yeah.
This year, that's a touchdown in the NFL.
I compare it most to the Calvin Johnson one a few years ago that everybody's freaking out about, where he basically catches it, goes down and sort of celebrating, throws the ball, and then
as
they say
rolling.
Yeah.
The NFL has fixed that. The college game, because the NCAA takes forever to fix anything, frankly, has not fixed it. And So, Chase, when you go read the rule, and we did, the rule is very poorly written. The rule is unclear. The rule is somewhat ambiguous even. But if you slog through it and read it to its perceived interpretation, you come to the conclusion that he did not complete the catch. It is my opinion what happened in those 5 minutes is that the play got flagged because the ball ends up in the Vanderbilt kid's hands.
And let me say real quick, I'm not 100% sure here. I think almost all replays go to Birmingham. I think that was an overplayed part of it as far as this particular play does something. Birmingham has the ability to stop action themselves.
And they review every scoring play.
Yes, correct.
Period.
And then also the replay has a chance to whatever, and then it comes back and the on-site official has final say in it. The Birmingham people give an opinion, they tell you what they think, and then it comes back to the on-site replay official to then make the determination toward the field.
It's my opinion that what happened was in those 5 minutes, people were pulling out the rule book and slogging through that rule. Frankly, I can't remember another time this happened at the college level. We asked Phil Longo about it. He talked about one play at Sam Houston years ago.
Really?
That was similar. But the SEC has gotten replay. Every game's on television. Every play has multiple angles. And so they're looking at it. And if you read the rule to its completion, and a lot of people refuse to do this, and I understand that. But if you read it to its completion, he doesn't complete the catch. It's the old NFL rule, which is a stupid rule. I'm not arguing that the rule's not stupid. I think it should have been a catch. He lands, he gets feet down, he gets his rear end down, and he gets an elbow down. For whatever reason, he lifts the ball up.
Because he's not diving, could you make the argument that he catches the ball on his feet so then everything that happens once he falls is irrelevant? Because he established possession prior to even going to the ground?
I don't know.
You know what I'm saying?
I do.
Because in theory, what you're saying, I mean, it comes back to the whole football move crap or whatever, because, I mean, if you took the loose interpretation of the rule without that football move part of it, a guy catches the ball at the 4-yard line, runs into the end zone, and then gets knocked down, ball comes out, and you go, I didn't catch it.
I think if he catches the ball, and nothing changes about that play except instead of extending his right arm, he tucks, and maybe that wasn't physiologically possible. I don't know. If he tucks the ball right there and on the ground the Vanderbilt kid's yanking at it and pulls it out, I think it's a touchdown. But because the ball's moving, even though it's in his hand, I think the officials determined that he did not complete the catch.
And the rule does also stipulate that just because a ball's moving or hits the ground does not mean it's not a catch.
I understand that.
No, I'm just playing it out for everybody that hadn't read the rule. I mean, that's what I'm saying. It is the most convoluted rule in the history of the world, which brings me to my point. It's another episode of, if it's this complicated, just call on the field. Just call it on the field.
We've been saying that for a long time.
Yeah, just call it on the field. Because by the interpretations they used, had the Vanderbilt kid been in bounds, it's an interception.
It's like Major
The
League
ball
Baseball.
never touches the ground.
Replay was designed to correct egregious mistakes. Officials are human. They miss calls, right?
Of course.
You know, it happens in real time. Go down on the field sometime and see how fast people are and understand that you can see how a 40-year-old man could miss a call. It happens. Replay was designed, in theory, to prevent that. It's like I hate in Major League Baseball, and the Cubs won a playoff series because of it, and I still hate it. I hate dissecting frame by frame on a pickoff move. Guy gets back to first before the ball gets there, but his hand lifts off for a split second because his body is moving in a manner to pop up. And his hand comes off the bag for just a millisecond, and he's out. Well, I hate that. That's not what the spirit of the replay was. The spirit of the replay was the umpire at first base misses a call that could change the game because he's a human being, and the replay goes, no, he was out. Or he was safe. Or, no, he did touch the plate.
Yeah.
A home plate umpire he doesn't get a great view, and he misses the call because he thinks that the catcher blocked the plate. And the replay shows that, no, indeed, He got the plate.
Yeah.
I want that fixed because he scored the run. What they've done with football replay is the same thing. They've gotten into minutia instead of just getting the damn call right.
Yeah. We'll continue this in a minute. Before we do that, I'll tell you about Master Cuts. It's Thanksgiving this week, but Christmas is coming around the corner, and it's time to get your house looking good for the holiday season. They'll transform your house into a festive staple of your neighborhood, from lighting and garland to inflatable characters, whatever your vision may be. And the best part is, whatever you buy, you'll own it. They'll store it to the next Christmas, or you can store it yourself. That option is yours. So start a tradition your family will cherish for years to come. Call Master Cut, 662-607-7773.
Our post-game coverage on Saturday, still up on the site somewhere, was brought to you by Pinnacle Trust. Pinnacle Trust is based in Madison, Mississippi. It represents clients in 24 states, has advisors in 3 states. Founded in 1997, Pinnacle Trust provides detailed, specialized investment management, financial planning, retirement planning for individuals and businesses, and much more. At Pinnacle Trust, investing is treated like a commodity, and decisions are made using objective research and information, not emotions. Regardless of your level of wealth, Pinnacle Trust will sit down with you, listen to your goals, study your expenses, and put forth a comprehensive, detailed financial and retirement plan. Cookie-cutter financial planners put you in a box. Pinnacle Trust builds a box just for you. To learn more about Pinnacle Trust, go to pintrust.com. That's PINN trust.com. Mention you heard about Pinnacle Trust on the podcast, and you'll get 10% off your first year's fee. The podcast also brought to you in part by the Westin Jackson. Restore serenity to your soul. Visit Soul Spa. It's the ultimate luxury spa experience in downtown Jackson. Indulge in personalized massages, signature facials, soothing body treatments, and much more on their extensive spa list. Escape from the everyday and rejuvenate yourself in their luxury spa today. And then stop by Estelle Wine Bar and Bistro, sip on a creative craft cocktail, or enjoy their curated wine list. It's open for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Chef Caden's mission is to connect guests with the community through local partnerships. So gather at Estelle tonight. And the podcast is brought to you by Dead Soxy, the limited edition Rebel colored socks. It's a limited quantity. Only 100 of each style are available. They're out now. So if you've been on the fence, this is a great place to start with the brand. They have an introductory price point at only $20 before the Rebel Grove discount. After the discount, they're just $15 a pair. It's the exact sock that they make for their custom clients. So if you're interested in the custom socks, try a pair of the Rebel socks to experience the difference a quality sock makes. They're powder blue colored socks, and they can be a challenge to find. So Dead Soxy has the styles and the colors to appease any Ole Miss fan. They make a perfect gift for the holidays. In fact, your stocking stuffer solution has arrived. So go to deadsoxy.com/rebels or find them on the bottom of the page under the styles heading. You get the 25% discount by entering promo code Rebel Grove at checkout. It's deadsoxy.com, DEADSOXY.com. Now, here's Jeffrey Wright on the Oxford Exxon podcast.
Going to go into Jeffrey in a second, and the kind of word that's come out is yesterday morning, Jeffrey heard a little bit. He did a little digging. He spends his Sunday watching football and on the internet. And as Ole Miss has struggled to put butts in seats this year, as this losing streak has hit what it is, Ole Miss, even from an eye test standpoint, has struggled because they're 0-7 in the SEC so far in games against the spread in lines this season after losing the Vanderbilt one as well on the weekend. And Jeffrey was looking into kind of money lost, where Ole Miss is from an income standpoint based off this football season, and he's got an interesting take that he wanted to give as far as what he would do to remedy that. So, hypotheticals at this point, just hypotheticals, conversation here on this podcast. We've always tried to talk about what you guys want us to talk about what we would talk about if we were all just sitting in a bar. And that is what this mostly is here as we move forward with the Egg Bowl coming up.
Let me say this in very clear terms.
Yeah.
So that there's absolutely, this is not going to.
No ambiguity.
Yeah, this is no SEC, NCAA rule book here.
Yeah.
We are not in any shape, form, or fashion. We are not reporting that anyone is being fired. Period. So anybody who either misinterprets, whether intentionally or unintentionally, I want to make that perfectly crystal clear. We are not reporting in any manner whatsoever that anyone is being fired or that there is even any consideration for anyone to be fired.
Yeah. I don't expect that to happen.
I'm not even going to get into expectations because I don't know.
Yeah.
I can tell you this. We're not reporting it.
Yeah. So keep that in mind as we go here to Jeffrey Wright on the Oxford Exxon podcast. Jeffrey, good morning. Good to have you on a Monday. No show, obviously, this Thursday as it is Thanksgiving. So we're going to bring you in early in the week. Got a little topic we're going to discuss today. Instead of, well, you were watching football, but instead of just the the no pants, the wings, the pizza, the whole deal, you were getting a little work done yesterday. I talked to you a couple times as I was coming back from Nashville, and what stroked your curiosity here as we get going?
Two things struck my curiosity yesterday. Number one, I understand emotions were running high on Saturday, but for the first time basically this entire year, I was not told under no certain terms would Matt Luke 100% be back yesterday. Or would be back for next year. I was told it wasn't this.
Were you seeking this out, or did you just all of a sudden start getting blown up, or what?
So two things happened yesterday. Number one, my phone. There was a lot of emotions on Saturday night, and I got it. So I didn't put much into it. And then, as Neal was driving back on Sunday, he and I chatted for a while, and I started doing some quick math, and I don't think people understand. It's really nice to sit there and say we want to give a coach X amount of time. We want to give a coach X amount of time. He deserves X amount of time. Well, these are the exact same arguments that were made with Tubby Smith, when Tubby was in Memphis. Tubby typically in year 3, those have always been his best teams. So you were building to year 3, building to year 3, building to year 3. Well, when Tubby Smith, I believe, had about 2,100 season tickets sold during year 2, it was starting to become an issue because the amount of revenue that the school was losing, they had reached a point in which the buyout, something that had been considered somewhat of an albatross, they reached the point where they were losing the amount of revenue that it would have taken to pay for the buyout. So it became financially a better decision to buy him out and then start over. And if you look at what Ole Miss is going through right now, I'm going to say, you started selling those. They started selling what do they call them? Basically, my girlfriend can go to every home game for $200 total. I don't know what those packs are called. But then you start looking at, it was alarming to me when you start to hear Ole Miss use tickets distributed rather than tickets sold. And that seems to be very carefully worded language. And I know Ole Miss fans are laughing, and maybe they're kind of laughing somewhat to just help ease the pain. But this buy one, get one free thing is telling to me. And it's not just so you don't have more maroon in the stadium. To me, that felt like a business decision. You're legitimately just trying to get people into the game to hopefully buy, an $8 stadium Coke, to hopefully buy an Ole Miss T-shirt, an Ole Miss hat. Like, you are trying to get people there to spend money, because if no one's there, it's still a sunk cost.
Yeah, look, an empty seat is going to sell nothing. An empty seat is going to buy nothing. Nothing. I mean, that's a guarantee. That's a zero. So if you have a person who is there free, and like you said, they buy a Coke, they buy a hot chocolate, they're probably not coming alone. They're going to bring a friend. They're going to bring a kid. Maybe the kid wants a T-shirt. So it's two things. One, you create a possible revenue stream, although it's a very small revenue stream, but a revenue stream nonetheless. And you create a situation where perhaps someone does a BOGO, and they buy a ticket for themselves and they get one free, and they take their son or daughter, and you cultivate we always talk about a heartstring. Maybe you cultivate a heartstring and you create a future customer. So, I mean, the people who criticize buy one, get one free as a stupid idea or whatever, that's a pretty arrogant concept. I'm with you, though. When I saw that last week, I did think that was one of, and I don't mean this in a negative way.
Yeah, I
thought it was one of the first tangible signs of I don't know if I want to use the word desperation or if I want to use the word panic. And neither one are necessarily bad things to do. It was the first tangible sign of, man, this is not going well.
Yeah, I do not want, if there's anyone in that building that thinks that I'm criticizing this decision, I think you made the best of a bad situation. I think you are doing, from a business perspective, I think that is the right thing to do, what they're doing. Because, as Neil pointed out, an empty seat's nothing. And there is no guarantee that if you do the buy one, get one free, that person comes and spends money. But there's a better chance that person spends some money than they don't. So the part of it that was, I don't know if alarming, but to me, certainly telling is the word. The fact that this is where they are. I mean, I get it. There's a lot of emotion, or maybe lack of emotion, around this football program. But I mean, for God's sakes, guys, this is an SEC game. And I get it. They're not going to a bowl game and whatnot. And this is a problem. And it's a financial problem. This isn't a football problem anymore. And if you start breaking it down, okay, I believe it's 10,325 tickets are student tickets. And I believe the university has to hold 7,500 for conference games for visitors. So you're looking at roughly 46,000 season tickets that are available to be sold. And obviously, certain tickets come with certain donations and whatnot. And so I'm honestly eliminating I'm even eliminating the thought of the amount of money, the donation that you have to go to get the tickets. I think right now, non-conference tickets are face valued at $75, and SEC tickets are valued at $95. Is that correct?
Yeah, I took your word for that. It's somewhere in that range. I haven't actually held a ticket in years, so I have no idea.
So that was the problem that I had too. And I don't even, my understanding is non-conference game, they've done the tiered system. It used to just be whatever, all tickets were the exact same, but they've gone this route where SEC games are valued differently. And that was somewhat new to me. Was that new to you, Chase?
No, I knew they were valued differently. I knew the SEC games are more expensive because I've just kind of noticed how.
My question is, how long has that been the case?
Oh, several years. I mean, I would think at least through the freeze era, maybe before that, but that's all I can really know for sure.
It makes sense to me. Like it's
why the deal packs and the mini packs work for the non-conference games, and it's why when you got kids stayed at 11 and all that. Okay, yeah, just get people in the door and do make them cheaper. That's a business positive.
Well, and if you're gonna sell the SEC ticket for if you buy a single game SEC ticket and it's cheaper than I get there are reasons to do it that are from from a customer, keep your customer happy perspective. Like, why do I have to pay this when I can go to the LM game for the same price? Like, I get it. There does need to be some value there. But the bigger issue is, okay, I'm not convinced. So what was Ross's exact wording on y'all's show about how much tickets were down? Because I remember the number that stuck out was he said we're down 18% in distribution.
Well, no, I think at that point it was 18% was the number that I was told that he said on the show that day, and I obviously that was as of that point. So I don't know what happened past that, but yeah, I think he meant 18% on tickets sold compared to the previous year. I think that's what he meant.
All right, so you're down 20%. All right, well, you start looking at it, and even the people that perhaps bought tickets, they clearly stopped showing up for a while. And so you're down 20% last year. You're very dangerously close to this reality in that I'm not buying this slam dunk. He's getting 2 new coordinators for a couple of reasons. Number one, I'm not convinced based on the way that Ole Miss is behaving that financially the money is there to pay off a coordinator that's due $2.2 million. What's West due?
Give or take. It's and those aren't lump sums. Basically, what you do is you just continue to pay the salary through the length of the contract minus whatever any new job would pay at that point.
Correct. And I've never really noticed business entities that are clearly struggled for cash. I've never really noticed them be dying to just pay someone not to work.
No, and look, here's kind of the bottom line on it, and this is, if you take this hypothetical, and I want to stress this is a hypothetical. If you take this hypothetical down the road, the question you have to ask yourself if you're Ole Miss is a multifaceted question. Number one, if you don't make changes of significance,
yes,
and look, changing a tight ends coach, making him an off the field coach, and bringing in a new tight ends coach is not moving the needle.
No, and that's not a change that is, right, in my opinion, it's not even a tangible change.
If you don't make a change that involves coordinators or the head coach, are you confident that you can sell enough tickets to offset what the cost would be to, quote, clean house? If you make a change at a coordinator, let's say you decided hypothetically to make a change involving Wesley McGriff, can you make a change that offsets the let's just call it $2 million loss that you take when you relieve him of his duties? And then the big question I have is, given this, what is now the chancellor is no longer in power. I don't know interim Chancellor Sparks at all. I'm not sure I would know him if he walked in the door. What power does he have or not have? And if he doesn't have power, what power right now does Ross Bjork have or not have? What capital does Matt Luke have or not have? And the problem they have is that when this season ends on Thursday night at some point, however it ends, they've got to do something that not only gets the confidence back of a fan base, but they've got to do something that excites a fan base. And I don't know how you go about doing that from a public relations standpoint. Whatever course of action or inaction that Ole Miss takes, they've got to have a pretty good sort of a PR message, I guess, that's directed at their fans that engenders excitement, that engenders hope, and that motivates people to spend. Otherwise, you've got to, at that point, if you don't think you can do that, you've got to start thinking about change. And I have absolutely no real idea one way or the other about what change, what level of change is truly being considered. If you made me guess today, I would guess that Wesley McGriff is back as defensive coordinator. That's a guess. And if you made me guess today, I don't know that. For the longest time, there was this assumption that Phil Longo would leave to get a head coaching job somewhere back in Texas. Here's the thing. Phil's a human being. He makes $700,000 a year right now.
Yes, and he has 2 years left as well, correct? On his deal?
He has one more year. He's in a 2-year contract. The only 3-year contracts are McGriff and Roach.
So he's got one more year guaranteed at $700,000. I don't know that he's ditching that voluntarily to take a job at some small Texas school as a head coach making $250 or $300. I don't know what those I don't know what Stephen F. Austin, for example, pays its head coach. I doubt it's more than $700,000. So I don't know what he does, and if he doesn't leave on his own, is Matt Luke firing him? And if Matt Luke's firing him, to hire who? Who are you bringing in that is going to excite people to the point that they're going to buy tickets? I mean, I like Dan Werner. I think Dan's a good offensive coach. Dan's been at Ole Miss a number of times, though. What, 2 times? He said 2 tours of duty?
Yeah.
2 tours.
I don't know that
with Orgeron
and Freeze.
and
then Freeze. So I don't know that Dan Werner's hire really moves the PR needle.
Took a break in our talk with Jeffrey to tell you about G&M Pharmacy on South Lamar in Oxford. Time to go get that flu shot. Still got time this flu season. Walk-ins are welcome. They accept all major insurance providers, and it's $25 if you don't have that insurance. If you do, it is free. While you're in there, you'll experience great customer service, and maybe you want to switch all your pharmaceutical needs to them. And when you do that, it is free delivery in the Oxford area as well. So it's G&M Pharmacy on South Lamar in Oxford.
The podcast also brought to you by John Edwards of Regency Travel Incorporated in Memphis. If you've been thinking about that golf trip with the guys you'll never forget, or maybe that anniversary trip she'll never forget, or you've been dreaming about going to St. Andrews or hanging out in Paris, whatever it may be, talk to John Edwards before you try to do it yourself. You can also need to, if you're thinking about spring break, thinking about that resort in Florida or a cruise in the Caribbean, get in touch with John. Maybe you're thinking about reserving a tee time at golf courses in Scotland or Ireland next summer. Now is the time to line that up. So get in touch with John. He's part of Virtuoso. It's a worldwide network of travel partners that allows John to supply his clients with added values and unique benefits that are simply not available to other travelers. John traveled the globe for 37 years before getting into the travel business. He knows the extra attention that's needed to make a special trip, one that creates a lifetime of unique memories. So if you're thinking about going with the boys to Pebble Beach, taking her to Napa for the vacation of her dreams, call John. He'll give you some parameters and a budget, and then he'll give you some options. And you give him some parameters and a budget, I should say, then he'll give you some options. You don't have to live in or near Memphis to take advantage of it. Call him at 901-494-3387 or send him an email, jedwards@regencytravel.net. First-time clients can save $50 off their first booked trip just by telling John you heard about Regency Travel on the podcast. Also brought to you by Grenada Nissan. If you're in the market for a Nissan vehicle, look no further than Grenada Nissan. They have a complete selection of new and previously owned Nissan vehicles. Go in, test drive one today. Tell Gene and Sandy that you heard about Grenada Nissan on the podcast, and you'll save Rebel savings on top of the already great deals at Grenada Nissan. It's GrenadaNissanUSA.com. Now back to Jeffrey Wright.
No, and that, I mean,
you know, the other name that you hear, and this is not a fair name to throw out because it's people making assumptions, but I'm using it as an example. I've not heard this name from anyone who would matter. But if you bring in Kurt Roper or a person whose last name is Roper, there is going to be this collective eye roll. That's not going to be an exciting move. That's their problem, is that you've got to create some excitement. You've got to engender some hope. You have to engender some enthusiasm, and I don't know how you go about doing that right now.
And that's the larger point. To me, okay, you keep hearing this narrative from, and I think it's people that mean well, but you keep hearing this narrative of, well, if he just gets the right coordinators, it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. No, it's not. Like, Neil or Chase, name an offensive coordinator out there that would sell tickets, period. I'm not even saying name a realistic one that Matt could hire. I'm saying name an offensive coordinator that's gonna all of a sudden sell tickets. I can't think of one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the game well enough to delve into all the different coordinators and stuff. I mean, I guess if you brought in LSU did it with Matt Canada. You bring in a Matt Canada and you sell, hey, we're going to be innovative and all of those things. You might get some people excited. Does that sell a lot of tickets? I don't know.
But even that was actually disappointing because the whole, Orgeron's initial plan, and I use that air quotes, but his initial plan was he was going to bring Lane Kiffin, and Kiffin is a name that would excite people. But Kiffin wasn't going to take the offensive coordinator gig. He wanted a head job. So,
I mean, look, this is not likely whatsoever. I'm just kind of throwing this out as a hypothetical. The only coordinator moves that would move some needles would be if you literally brought in, like, say Vanderbilt fires Mason and you bring Mason in, or you bring in Brett Bielema or something along those lines where it's a former SEC coach.
Yeah.
Right. And neither of those are likely.
Point.
Well, no, I'm just talking.
I think that's but still, my point is still, even if you do that, that's not really, like, once apathy has set in, there really isn't anything that you can do to fight it other than you got to start over.
Well, see, the apathy thing's the funny thing because we're Groundhog Day. We have the same conversations, and the reality is, frankly, the last 2 weeks, but especially this past Saturday, you and I talked about yesterday, Wesley called a good game.
Yeah, that's an entirely different argument for me. Like, basically, that's kind of the large point. Like, if you really think that he's the worst, the worst of the two coordinators, I've got some serious philosophical football problems with you. But the larger point is, I still don't think, even if you let's say you bring in 2 new coordinators, I still don't think that's selling tickets. Like, it's not going to matter. Like, because the truth is, let's say that Ole Miss goes down this path. They do bring in 2 new coordinators. The odds are they're going to bring in solid football coaches, guys that are respected, but they're just solid football coaches that don't have any name, don't have any pizzazz. Like, they might be familiar because of coaching ties from people that have been at Ole Miss or been around Ole Miss. Like, there might be some familiarity, but it's not changing anything. And they're about to, like, let's get real. Thursday night's probably not going to be a good night. It's a bad matchup for Ole Miss. It's a really, really bad matchup for Ole Miss. And what happens when they get beat the same way that Arkansas got beat on Saturday? They get beat, 38-6, and it's never competitive. And that game's on national TV. You're having to watch half the stadium be state people ringing the bells as they're kicking your ass. We haven't ramped up the emotional aspect of this. And,
what would you do?
Personal, it's over. I'd pull the plug. And I'd pull the plug for 2 reasons. One, it is likely that you're going to be the only SEC school making a change. And 2, I need to do some type of move that shows I am actually trying. Like, this fan base is mad. Like, they're mad.
Yeah, they're angry.
It's displaying itself in apathy, but my God, they're mad. And I'm not even saying they don't have a right to be mad, but I'm forget the whether or not they deserve the right to be angry or upset. I have to do something that shows that I'm listening.
I'm mostly go ahead.
Yeah, and to me, I have to do something that shows, hey, I'm listening and I'm actively trying to get this right. And the only way you can do that is to make a change. It's funny how like the most conservative people, when it comes to their football coach, like, they don't want conservative. You know what I mean? Like, they want change now.
Would you be technically worried about optics of its 2 probation years? I mean, literally, that's the entire tenure. There's never been a full deck even for this tenure at all.
And by the way, I think I would probably say, when I would make change, I would say, listen, this is not fair, but this is the reality of it. I'm looking at losing $15 million next year. And I'm not saying that is entirely your fault. In fact, the truth is, you're probably the person that just had to. You are the person that happened to be holding the job when the credit card bill came due, and it's not fair. But at the same time, you did understand how this could go when you took the job, and now I'm. It's not like I'm not going to pay him. Like I am going to pay him to go away. And I just think that I think it's completely changed in this day and age. I don't think if there is some quote unquote industry standard for how long you're supposed to get to build a program, I think it's gone. I think the money's too high. I think the stakes are too great. And I think the truth is attendance is down nationwide. But I don't, at the very end of the day, the core, you can say that you're building whatever, that you want better student athletes. You can at the end of the day, they are in the ticket selling business. Like that's what they're in. And it is their number one revenue producer. And you're looking at, in my opinion, next year, you're looking at hard selling 20,000 season tickets of actual sales. I'm not talking about number of people that show up at the game and whatnot. I'm talking hard sales. It's 20,000. No package, not flex packages or whatever. If you start doing the math, 85 times 7 times 20,000, you're looking at around $12 million. And that's not including donations. That's not including even, $30 a person to have a Coke or something. Like I don't think they can do this. And in my opinion, there is not any changes that can be made with this regime and with this staff that's going to all of a sudden light excitement back up. Because the truth is, you're going into the next season essentially with the same coaching staff. You might have a few position coaches, whatnot. The team's still the same. They're probably going to finish 7th in the West in recruiting. The next year's recruiting class is, by most accounts, SEC caliber and talented. And you're going to go into a season where your building's never going to be full, and 6-6 is going to feel like an absolute victory based on what I see from a talent perspective. And that's your recruiting pitch is going to be what? Come play in front of a half full building and a fan base that's apathetic.
No, I will say this: if you're going into next season in your mind, and whoever the power brokers are at Ole Miss at this moment in time, if you're going into next season with a litmus test in your mind of, okay, well, this is the season that determines what we do here. Well, you've already answered your own question. Here's where I think they're challenged, and I mean this. I kind of mean it constructively. If they're not going to make significant change, someone over there has to come up with a message that is different than the message that's being delivered week after week after week right now. They've got to come up with something that's more honest, that's more transparent. And I'm not saying they're being dishonest, but we're just working. We're working hard every day. We're trying to get better. We believe in this staff. We believe that doesn't resonate with people.
It resonates if you're 10-2.
Well, it doesn't resonate. It resonates. Yeah. Well, if you're winning, anything resonates. If you're winning, look at Mike Leach right now. I mean, you can talk about Halloween candy and it resonates. But if you're not winning and you're coming off this tenure where you've lost the public trust, and you absolutely have, because the public feels like they didn't get the truth about the NCAA thing. The public feels like you're not fighting for them. Look at Saturday night. They want fire and brimstone from Ross Bjork. They want him to stand, and he would be insane to do it. His colleagues would make so much fun of him. He'd never have another opportunity. But they want someone to stand in front of the camera and say, we got screwed, and by God, we're going to fight it, and that's what they want. They're angry. You nailed it. But you better capitalize while they're still angry, because once anger turns into apathy, you don't get them back.
Yeah, and I think the biggest problem that they have is, I'm sorry, I think you're at this point, I don't think there's some message that's all of a sudden going to change the way people feel. The only thing that's going to, I'm not saying that this is entirely Matt's fault. I'm not saying that this is entirely Ross's fault. I'm not saying that this is Vitter's fault, although it kind of is. it doesn't, like, all of that doesn't matter anymore. There's nothing that these people can realistically do that is going to change the way people feel. And the only way that you can actually do that is you have to start over, and there has to be some sense of something exciting next year. And I don't even think like they can risk. Like, I think there's really only two choices that they have. Like, I think they have to go get Kiffin, or they have to get the Pirate. And I would call the Pirate first because I've seen the Pirate twice at bad jobs win with inferior talent. But to me, those are this day and age of finding the right coach, the day and age of we're gonna do it the right way, we're gonna get the right guy, we're gonna find the fit. That's gone, man. Like, that was last year. You had a chance to do that last year. You can't do that again this year. And you have to hire someone that's got some splash, some pizzazz. Neil Brown's not going to put butts in seats. Seth Littrell's not putting butts in seats. Like, Matt Canada, let's be real, it's not putting butts in seats. Like, you have to do something. You have to do something drastic.
Yeah, because you're looking at this whole thing from a business standpoint. I mean, it goes hand in hand. It's promotion, it's winning, it's everything, especially if you're not winning at a high level. What do you think caused the level of angst over relatively 500 seasons, which in the past would have been something that Ole Miss fans would have been overly happy with, but it had been fairly fine. I mean, you won the Egg Bowl last year. You've got some of these decent enough games where it's whatever. I know it's looked like crap this year, but just in general, it's weird to me. And it's not weird because I think I understand it. You go to Access Bowls and the curve changes, but everything's changed from a perspective and what constitutes acceptable seasons at this point.
I think the problem is they don't pass the eye test anymore.
You think it's that simple?
Yeah.
If it looks a different way, then the win-loss is whatever.
And there's no momentum. It's not going to anything. Like, it's not going anywhere. Like, they don't pass the eye test, and then on top of that, there's nothing on the horizon.
I missed part of the conversation, so if y'all said this, just stop me. It's the unfair part about the decision that was made a year ago. Where it's unfair, what was unfair to Matt was not having enough vision to see this coming. What was unfair to Matt was not having enough understanding of the landscape to know that there was a real chance that we'd get to this day. What was unfair to Matt was, I don't know what happened in those rooms because no one will come out and even tell us off the record what happened in those rooms. But what happened when someone said, okay, let's talk about this. What if next season goes badly? That's what's unfair. I know you got to go. That's the part that as we get through this, as we get through this week, that's the part when people talk about what was unfair. And I know he got $3 million a year. I get it. But that's what was unfair. There was a lack of, in my opinion, vision / planning moving forward. And they didn't have a comprehensive communications plan in place for what happens if next season goes badly.
Have a good day, Jeff. Talk to you soon.
All right, y'all.
Thanks to Jeffrey for joining us outside of his scheduled day. The podcast also brought to you by Visit Oxford. Visit oxfordms.com/events to see everything going on. And now that it's getting close to December, you can go pretty much anywhere you like. Students going home for the most part for the holiday season. All the lights and stuff up soon. One of the best times to be in Oxford. The Oxford Christmas Open House, November 23rd, 11 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. downtown on the square, and many more events coming up. So again, head on over to the calendar events. It's visit oxfordms.com/events.
Black Friday does not have to start after Thanksgiving. Rebel fans can purchase Ole Miss gear for all ages from the Rebel Shop up to 25% off by using the code FSNOMIN. Again, FSNOMIN. Be sure to follow Ole Miss Athletics on social media for all the Black Friday deals this week. Don't miss a minute of the action this year at the Pavilion with Coach Yo and the women's hoops team. Get your tickets today for just $50. Tickets can be purchased by visiting OleMissTix.com. The Ole Miss men's hoops team returns to the Pavilion on Tuesday For Ole Miss Family Night, they host Nichols at 6 p.m. $5 lower-level tickets will be available for purchase by visiting the ticket box office on game day. Escape the house on Thanksgiving break and bring the family out to the pavilion. And join the 2018 Ole Miss football senior class for the Egg Bowl on Thursday night as the Rebels square off with Mississippi State. Tickets can be purchased by visiting OleMissTix.com. That's OleMissTix.com. Podcast also brought to you by Oxford University Bank. OUB, locally owned and operated right here in Oxford. When you deposit money at OUB, that money and the vast majority of the bank's profits go right back into the Oxford community. OUB gives you the comfort of home, all the benefits that big mega banks provide, all the technology and products you can want with the personal touch. When you call OUB, you speak directly with the live person. There's no 10 buttons to push. There's no 5-minute wait. OUB offers its customers the absolute best cash checking account. It's called Kasasa. And with Kasasa, OUB will pay customers 2.5% interest on their balances up to $50,000. And with Kasasa, ATM fees nationwide are refunded. OUB also offers online bill pay and mobile check deposit using its online app. To learn more about OUB, check out liveoxfordbankoxford.com or call 662-234-6668. OUB is FDIC insured. And the podcast brought to you by Megan Phillips with LAH Real Estate. She's the person to call for all your real estate needs in the Birmingham area. With almost a decade of experience, Megan's knowledge and expertise can help you buy or sell your home today. Visit her website, meganmphillips.com. That's MEAGANM Phillips.com. Or call Megan at 205-602-7929. And registration for the spring soccer season in the Oxford Park Commission has started. If your child played in the fall, the cost is just $35, and he or she will get to rejoin his or her current team. For those signing up for the first time, it's $55 to play in the spring. Leagues are open for ages 4 to 15. For more information, visit www.oxfordparkcommission.com.
Just kind of get into this part of it. Let's say one final thing. You and I were discussing a second ago. I mean, with the message board going crazy on the review stuff, I get it. Every game's emotionally charged, especially when you're getting down to this type of minutia. The SEC has a severe perception problem. They have a group in Birmingham, and basically, here's what's funny about this. So pull up the Vanderbilt tweet, or maybe the SEC Network tweet, where they had the Vanderbilt win over Ole Miss. Basically, 13 teams are involved in yelling at the SEC. Alabama's the only one that's not. And when that's the case, right, wrong, indifferent, whatever, you have a problem. As you said, you put this thing in Charlotte. You have an independent group that does this. You take it out of your hands to fix your problem, because I don't know what the situation is, but when it comes down to, and he kind of talks about the conspiracy thing, well, it doesn't have to be every official in the world if you've got two dudes that are running the replay room then giving their opinion back to the guy, because at the end of the day, it's even in the USA Today story that I read all this from. It said, hey, when the on-field guy gets it back, if he doesn't say whatever the Birmingham guy says him to say, he better be right. Basically threatening him that if you overrule us, you have a whatever.
Let's get real. No officials overruling the replay people.
No.
The officials on the field are...
No, I mean in the booth upstairs, but yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There's a replay official in the booth that gets the call from Birmingham, who then relays his final decision down to the field.
And he ain't nothing but a courier.
Yeah.
There's a simple solution to this. And they have the money to do it. Move the damn thing to Charlotte. And every single Friday afternoon, fly a group of 4 or 5.
How many ever you need. I don't know.
Hire a bunch of cats from Vermont and New Hampshire with Ivy League degrees and pay them some extra money to spend their Saturday in Charlotte. Put them in front of the deal. Let them go all day. No SEC ties. If you went to an SEC school, you're out. If you grew up in the South, you're out. Honest, I'm swear to God, you've got to eliminate any perception. Hire a bunch of cats from New Hampshire who can't tell you the difference between Ole Miss and Mississippi State. They think Ole Miss is the Bulldogs. Hire those cats. I'm totally serious. Smart people, analytical people who can look at things and say, he's in, he's out, got that one wrong, got that one right, who understand to some degree whatever the hell it is we're trying to call with targeting, who can do the best they can on that, and then be done with it. At the end of the day, it's just football. But when you have a perception that the league, and this is a perception that is shared around the league.
13 schools.
And let me be clear on it. I do not believe for 1 minute that the SEC has a stated conspiracy to protect Alabama. It makes no sense.
Doesn't have to be stated, though.
I don't think there's a conspiracy. I don't
think there's a conspiracy. I do believe, however, that there is an easily attained perception that Alabama never gets screwed on these in any critical time. And now some of that is they don't play games that freaking close.
They don't.
But even in so, they don't. I mean, I think if it's in the weeds of a moment and it could go either way, Sinquest Golson's review is not overturned. It had to be clear to be overturned. I think Alabama gets the call-on-field reversal benefit of the doubt more than other schools. I do believe that. And maybe that's just in one individual somewhere with some bias. It's not league-wide. I'm not anywhere near going there. But I do think people are human. And when you put people in certain environments to make these calls in certain places, that things happen.
And people are emotional about this stuff.
Yes.
It's why people get mad at me. Everybody on these deals, people get mad at me. I am not emotional. They get mad at me about it. They want to go hire some people from Oregon or Montana. Hire some people. Bring in some freaking Canadians every week. I don't know. But get rid of it and let their call stand. I'll say this in fairness to Alabama. Alabama's winning right now because they have better players than everybody else at virtually every position. They're on a 10-year run right now because this is what happens when the best coach in college football takes over a program that might have the most resources in college football. Does Alabama cheat? Yes, everyone cheats. Does the NCAA look into Alabama's cheating? They do. Guess what? They hit brick walls. They're better at it than everybody else. Well, Georgia's doing so well right now. You want real? That's real. You're going to cheat? You better cheat with layers. And you can't have people at your institutions who do, and I've heard this at Ole Miss, we just don't believe in doing it that way. Okay, well then, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. Because you're in a part of the country that the kids aren't coming for free.
So, let's wrap the podcast here with the last segment on Jeffrey, the interview there. Look, SEC is a multi-million-dollar business, billion-dollar business. I don't know, whatever the total thing is. Ole Miss football has an 8-figure, whatever athletic budget, 9-figure athletic budget now. Yeah, 9-figure now.
I would think, yeah.
It's $115, $120 million.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Football's the bell cow.
Sure.
Football pays for a lot of other stuff. Pretty much all the other stuff.
Football pays for pretty much everything.
Yeah. It's the front door to your university.
Yeah.
Period. It changes enrollment. It changes donations. It changes everything. And in a place like Oxford that's not Nashville or somewhere like that, it changes your entire economy of your city.
Yes.
I was talking to somebody this morning. Actually, I wasn't even talking to them. It just came to me unasked for. Oxford city-wise is down in percentages and numbers and businesses and help and all sorts of things because of the football program. It is the engine that runs this town, period.
Yes.
And because of that, it creates these conversations and these things that have to be talked about, because if it's not running at an efficient and optimal level, and if it's not producing money and tickets and wins, because that's what produces these other things, frankly, it is going to be something that is going to be debated, and everybody go, are we doing the right thing? And that's where this thing is right now. It's not about fair or unfair. Nobody said this was fair to Matt Luke. Nobody said this was anything along those lines. That's not what this is about at all. It's not fair to Matt Luke, but it's the conversation that everyone is having right now because of the fact that this football team is probably going to lose 5 games in a row to end their season. They're probably going to go 1-7 in the SEC with the one win over an Arkansas team that's really, really bad. Yes. And they will not have played a game since the Texas Tech game that looked as good as the Texas Tech game. They will have looked worse in the 11 if Thursday holds, obviously. Worse than they did in that opener, and that is what everyone's frustrated about. We can talk about the reasons all the way around, but it is eye test, it is overall wins and losses, and it's the fact that when you get into this, Matt Luke's going to be on the clock starting Friday morning. There's no doubt about that, to make changes in this program from a money standpoint, it's a really, really hard determination to figure out what would radiate enough to change the financial structure of the situation.
I said this a year ago. I'll say it again. It gets me labeled. It gets me labeled as a hater. It gets me labeled as negative. It gets me labeled as somebody that's out to get. And you know, you're with me every single morning.
Yeah.
I'm not out to get anybody. If anything, I would love to see Matt Luke win. I think it's a great story. I think he's a really nice person. I think he's a good dude. I think he genuinely cares, all of that stuff. And the kids clearly care for him because this team has every reason to roll over and play dead in a game like Saturday night. Every reason. And they don't. I watched kids come in. I can tell you, I won't name names because I don't want to embarrass the kids in the event that they would be embarrassed. But I watched multiple players walk off that field in tears.
In tears, and frankly, I wrote about this very, very quickly, showing a lot of strength to some Vanderbilt jackasses above the end zone.
Yes. They care. And one of the reasons they care is because they care about their head coach. Everything a year ago screamed, hit the reset button. Everything. The reset button wasn't hit. And I think this is part of the anger. The reset button wasn't hit. The perception is, and I believe this to be true, you're free to disagree. It wasn't hit because the chancellor and some people around town got involved. Boosters got involved. It wasn't hit for political reasons, and I think people get angry at that. It's not about Matt. It's not about Matt. And I think there's some people who are angry that are beginning to get angry that on draft night a decision wasn't made that probably logically should have been made.
Hindsight, but fair nonetheless.
Hindsight, but yes. Hindsight, part of these deals.
Yeah.
People look back and go, well, if we had only. And that's not always. None of this is, quote, except for the part about the political stuff. Yeah. I think that's fair. I think an explanation of how we got here is deserved. And it gets back to what I was saying as we start to wrap. About what I was saying in a conversation with Jeffrey. If the decision is made at the end of this season to stay on this course, someone is going to have to articulate. Someone's going to have to talk with the fans in a more. I'm trying to do this without insulting people, without making it look like I'm being vehement, because I'm not. You're in the room with me. People want an explanation. People demand an explanation. They deserve an explanation. How did we get here? Why did this happen? And don't throw. Hey, we're going to do the year of the fan, and here's some concessions. No, I think people want the truth.
What a lot of the year of the fan got canceled for multiple reasons.
I think they want the truth. What's the truth? How did we get here? What are we doing to fix it? How did we get here? That's what people want to know. Because I get that question. If I get it, you must get it 100 times. I get it. How'd they get here? It's a fair question. What was the decision to... Because the decision that was made a year ago was to stick with the status quo. People have a question. So had we not beaten Mississippi State, that's their question. Had we, Ole Miss, not beaten Mississippi State, would we still have made this decision? Or was it an emotional decision made after one football game? Because if you make a decision based on one football game, it's a bad decision. That's an emotional decision. Emotional decisions don't usually work out particularly well. How many times do you hear people say, hey, take it, sleep on it?
Yeah. Well, things like, because if that were the case, it'd be the second time in several years it had impact on Ole Miss's coaching staff. Hugh Freeze doesn't take the Florida job after the state game in 14.
Right.
14? Yeah, 14. Yeah.
Yeah. You got to get past that. I mean, yeah, it's a meaningful game. It's an emotional game. It's a game that you live year-round. And people say, well, you don't know what it's like because you're not at my office and stuff. And I get that. But when you're the people that are making the decision, you have to remove yourself from that and make decisions that are best for the long-term interest of the program. And I think that's what people want to know. And I'm with Jeffrey here. Not on the part about I'd make a change. I don't want to vote. I don't know that firing Wesley McGriff today and bringing in another defensive coordinator radically changes the direction of my program.
If assistant coaching changes can change the PR nature of your program, can bring fan capital back, we're talking mass change. It would take considerable.
We're talking
change.
6.
Yeah, we're talking more than 50%.
Yeah, you're talking 5, 6, 7 coaches. Yeah. I don't think.
I talk to a lot of fans, and that's what I get over and over and over again. Is that if it's an assistant coach deal to lessen apathy and bring people back into the fold, we're talking mass change.
Yeah, almost sweeping change.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's in the cards. I could be wrong. I don't know. I know people say, are you going to ask Matt this? Yeah, we're all going to ask Matt this on Thursday night. This is where Thursday night's going.
Yeah.
And if he's not prepared for those answers, well, that's on the people that are around him for not saying, hey, those questions are probably coming. You need to have an answer prepared.
Yeah.
The people that get so angry at Matt, I get frustrated at them because here's a guy who all he's done is taken a job, and he's given you everything he's had. Look at him. He looks exhausted. He was emotional Saturday night.
He was.
Because I asked him the question about how do you get back up?
And he had to kind of stop himself for a second.
He stopped himself for a moment, and he said, we have no choice. And he talked about how he really wanted success for those kids because they've given him everything.
Yeah. No doubt.
Been hard on the guy. He's given you everything he's got. It's a tough spot, though. And then I'm with the general fan who says, you know what? When you're making the kind of money these people are making, there's no gold star. How many times have you heard me say it? Probably enough to want to slap me. When you work in that field, you're in the scoreboard business.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't even get to this. We'll wrap here. In fairness to Matt, in fairness to everybody over there, was officiating the storyline? Officiating was the storyline. But what cost Ole Miss that football game Saturday?
7 red zone trips with 1 touchdown.
That's what cost Ole Miss the game.
Defense held Vanderbilt under 400 yards.
Defense played well enough to win.
Not under 500, under 400.
Under 400. 380, I think, yards.
6, something like that.
70-something plays. I don't know. They
Whatever.
did well. They did fine. Created a turnover. Played well enough to win the game.
Yeah.
You lost. The officiating got the headlines, but the red meat of that loss was red zone.
The officiating doesn't happen, and frankly, there'd be even more apathy and even more heat for the people that weren't apathetic because of the red zone trips. Could be you just lost the game because you couldn't score in the red zone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Frankly,
it was a little bit of a gift.
Frankly,
in an odd way, for if you lose the game, obviously.
For the administration, the officiating is a gift because it's a deflector, it's a distraction.
Yeah.
You lost the game because on several occasions, on 4th and 1, 3rd and 1, I wrote this in 10 thoughts. When you look at the field goals and you see 5 field goals, and they're like 20, 28, 30, 32, it means you bog down inside the 20.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the Saints yesterday. Saints could have been absolutely royally screwed on the call, and it wouldn't have mattered because every time they get a possession inside the red zone, it's a touchdown. When they kick a field goal, it's a 40-something yarder, a 50-something yarder. They don't bog down inside the 20. That's where the game got lost.
Yeah. We had a lot of stuff to get to today. We'll talk Lions on Wednesday. We'll talk basketball on Wednesday a little bit too. So we'll cover some of these things as the week continues and we keep going. So for today, thanks Jeffrey for joining us. He certainly brought the content. We'll have more at rebelgrove.com as the day moves on. All the interviews and stuff is later this afternoon. So don't expect anything from Matt at 11. By the way, it's like 1:15 or something now.
Yeah, I think it's 1:30.
Something like that. So later in the afternoon, coverage rebelgrove.com. Talk to you Wednesday.